Everyone, and welcome back to the fourth, maybe-ish episode of my Surviving APCSP courses. This will be part of the unedited series in which I'm just going to spill information in a very loose sense, so you can give a quick, 5 to 10 minute overview about what's actually going on. So let's talk about this. So our topic for today will be talking about the basics of von Neumann architecture. Von Neumann architecture is the fundamental architecture on which all modern computing systems are based off of. It contains four main parts, which include the memory unit, the arithmetic logic unit, the input-output, and the control unit. You can see those here. Now, some terminology you need to know is what is the CPU? The CPU is the circuitry that controls the manipulation of all data throughout the entire computer. It has the ALU inside of it, the CU inside of it, and the registers inside of it, CU standing for control unit. The arithmetic logic unit is just the circuit that does the rote math. That's the only job it has, just to do math. So, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, that's it, just four jobs, four things. Now, you have the control unit. The control unit is the circuit that will actually coordinate the activities of the CPU. The control unit will help decide what the ALU will have to do and, when the ALU is done. And then you have registers. Registers are small stores of data within the CPU. So the thing with von Neumann architecture is it basically relies on a program being loaded up from the main hard drive into RAM, and once it's loaded into RAM, it'll be read line by line by the CPU, and the instructions that are loaded into the RAM will be executed that way. So you have, and that whole process is called a fetch execute cycle. So the first part of fetch execute cycle is to just fetch. This next instruction will be fetched by the CPU from the main memory, or the first instruction. It's a cycle, it won't matter. The cycle will be decoded. The instructions were broken down into individual components to determine what the instruction is and what the data is being used. So for example, so what'll happen, right, is let's say you load up Word, right? When you load up Microsoft Word, what's happening is the computer first retrieves the program from the main hard drive and puts it into the main memory, which is the RAM, the random access memory. The random access memory has two parts to every line, the data and the addresses, which is stored in the form of binary. Now, what will happen is the CPU will first look at some address and look at the data, look at the address from the RAM, and look at what data it is, what data is stored at that address. That data can be numbers, letters, other addresses and instructions. Now you might be wondering, wait, why would I need to store other addresses in this data? So for example, if you're going to print out this Microsoft Word document, you need the address of where the printer is, right? So that's just a thing. So basically, the RAM has two parts, the addresses and the data. Addresses will tell you where the data is stored, and this is the type of data there is. Now, continuing on. So what will happen is the CPU will take the next instruction, find the data for it, and send all of that into find the address for what it's supposed to do, find what that address contains, and send that to a decoder. Okay, and this decoder is called the address register. So this register will be able to reverse lookup for the CPU and tell it what it needs to do. So for example, if it's like 001, that's the instruction, then the decoder is like, hey, that means you have to input a number or something. It'll be some instruction. And then once it decodes it, the CU will activate the necessary circuits or data transfers needed to actually do the actions. That may be adding, printing, etc., whatever it is. And yeah, this is a quick overview of it. Another small part to know is that there's a clock, which is basically a metronome for the CPU, and it'll send short electrical pulses to the CPU to tell it when to do an actual action, like how fast to do the actions. It's a side bit of information. Yeah, I think the main part to focus on will be this diagram over here. It essentially encapsulates everything that you need to know for this, like the basics of von Neumann architecture. Just talking about how the bus, which is just the main way things flow, along with how the RAM interacts with everything, the ALU. So yeah, this is my quick overview on von Neumann architecture and how the parts interact with each other. What you need to know is the CPU is the central processing unit. It has the math section, the control unit, the registers, Registers are quick notepads of information where the computer can store things to be used later. Um, there's the main memory. The main memory is the RAM. The RAM has two parts. Data addresses. The data can have a lot of different forms. Um, there's a fetch execute cycle, and that this main section here is what the core of this lesson is. How these four parts, how the memory unit, earthling logic unit, input output control unit, CPU, how all these things run to work together to create this fetch execute cycle. So yeah, this is the quick overview. More in-depth video will be coming out later. Enjoy.